Welcome to the Motherhood Mentor podcast. I'm Becca, a somatic healing practitioner and a holistic life coach for moms, and this podcast is for you. You can expect honest conversations and incredible guests that speak to health, healing, and growth in every area of our lives. This isn't just strategy for what we do, it's support for who we are. I believe we can be wildly ambitious while still holding all of our soft and hard humanity as holy. I love combining deep inner healing with strategic systems and no-nonsense talk about what this season is really like. So grab whatever weird health beverage you're currently into and let's get into it. Welcome to today's episode of the Motherhood Mentor podcast. I have a really fun guest with me, Laura. And she is one of my friends I made in a mastermind. And I'm so excited to have her here today because we follow each other and get to stay connected just a little bit on Instagram, but that's not the same as getting to have a good long conversation. So Laura, will you introduce yourself? And today we're going to talk about postpartum and like the long postpartum journey, what it actually feels like and looks like, and I'm sure many other things. So will you introduce yourself, Laura?
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. I feel like we have talked about doing this for about a year now, and it's finally happening. So I'm really excited. But my name's Laura McHugh. I am a nurse by trade in pediatrics and the NICU, but have been an entrepreneur since 2018, kind of all over the place. I live in Delaware. I have two little girls. I have a 3.5-year-old and an 11-month-old. And I just am extremely and always have been passionate about helping women through their lives. And that's just evolved over the last couple of years as I've evolved. But now I feel like it's so much more deeply impact driven, just based on what I've been through and what I've seen my fellow moms go through. And yeah, I don't like small talk. I like deep connected, walks on the beach. And, fun for me is reading a book or like doing personal growth work. So that's kind of me.
Which is why I love you so much. I love it. As soon as someone's like, I hate small talk, I'm like, we're going to get along great. Like, where do we start? Like, let's dive in. I'm so curious. So at first in your entrepreneurship journey, you were doing a lot of work with nurses, and now you're moving more towards like postpartum and helping moms prepare for that. I'm curious what your postpartum journey was and if that was part of that evolution for you.
Yeah. So if you had asked me during my first postpartum, I would have said, heck no, I would never work with moms. And that's actually when I met you. I was pregnant with my first. So I was only about I had joined Ash's mastermind because I knew that I wanted to get pregnant soon. And then I signed up and I kid you not, I found out like 2 weeks later that I was pregnant. And I met you in person when I was about 14 weeks pregnant. And I was so determined at the time that my life wasn't going to change. My business was on the up and up. Like I was seeing so much success. I was full time in it. I was working solely with burnt out nurses and then nurses who also wanted to lead in some capacity. And I was like fully booked and busy. It was such a crazy time because I was growing this human, but like pretending I wasn't. And then also just like thriving during COVID and building this business. And I remember specifically asking you guys in the mastermind, maybe like a month or so before I was supposed to give birth. And I said, what should I like prepare for? Like, what should I know? Like, I feel like I'm going to be good because I'm like a pediatric nurse, no big deal. And everyone was like, Laura, you just really won't know until you're in it. I was like, no, but I'm going to be fine. Like, I'm really not worried about it. And then I got rocked. I feel like no matter what any of you could have said to me, because you were all moms already, would have prepared me. And I had like an unexpected NICU stay with my first, which as a pediatric ICU nurse, like that just killed me because I was like, wait a second. Because of course I was going down the rabbit hole of like, why is this happening? My pregnancy was perfect. My delivery was perfect. Is she okay? Is there something underlying? And that kind of really set off my journey with postpartum anxiety. which I didn't realize I had until after the fact. And so that coupled with my husband at the time we're still married. At the time, he was traveling. It sounds like we got divorced. At the time, he was traveling for work up to 5 nights a week. So I was solo parenting down in Virginia, which is hours away from my family. So I had no support around me. I was extremely anxious. My baby was not a napper. So like my initial plan of like, oh, I'll work during her nap times, that was impossible. She hated sleep at night. And I just, everything kind of went to shit. Like all of my preconceived notions of motherhood and business just went down the drain. And it took me until getting pregnant with my second to really kind of come to terms with everything that happened and then really start to embrace motherhood itself. It was crazy. Like I shut down my first business. I lost so much money. Like it was just the identity shift itself of going into motherhood. Like I could have never expected that. So yeah, it was really, really tough. And my second pregnancy and postpartum was really healing. And that's kind of how I've gotten to this place now of wanting to work solely with postpartum women.
Yeah. Oh, that identity shift is such a big one. And do you remember what I told you on that call? Because I actually remember what I told you because I kind of got a little bit of like, Becca, you don't say that to women. I was like, no, why not?
I remember you being, I think, the most honest. I can't imagine, like, I can't.
But it somewhat feels like you get hit by a bus. And I was
Yes.
like, you can't possibly prepare for how much this is going to change and blow up everything. And you're going to be okay. It's going to feel like you're not going to be okay, but you're going to be okay eventually. But it might rock you. And I remember like some people were like, that's encouraging. And it's so hard because I've always been someone who it's like, I don't want to be the like, oh, just wait. It's going to be miserable. But I also think like I had very, very rough postpartums. And I think the only reason I was okay is because someone told me that it was okay, that it was going to be so rough. Like
Yeah.
I knew that it wasn't just me, and I knew that it was going to get better because I saw these women who had gone through that, who told me it destroyed me, and I thought I would never feel like myself again, but I do. And so
Yeah.
when it happened to me, it felt positive for me to be like, it's going to be okay. Like eventually.
Well, I wish so. I remember it now that you say it, but the only thing I think I blocked you out because
Probably.
I was like,
Maybe
no,
you
I'm gonna
needed
be
to. Yeah.
fine. Like, what do you mean? Like, I am mentally strong. Like, I've done this before. I like take care of babies for a living. Like, but
Yeah.
I wish that I had taken that with me because then I would have not had those thoughts of like, oh my God, am I doing this wrong? Is something wrong with me? Like, am I being selfish? Like, am I a bad mom? And I feel like, pregnant me shouldn't have blocked that out, but it was probably like a,
But
self-preserving
also,
mechanism.
even if you would have taken it in, it's one thing to know it, it's another thing to experience it. And I think
Yeah,
I think
100%.
I think motherhood is such a potent, I mean, it rips away all of it, so much capacity that you have as a person. You're put under so much pressure. You are being pulled on and pushed in on every level of being, on every level of identity. I mean, we're talking hormones, biologically, physiologically, relationally, environmentally, like your sleep, like your emotions, your marriage, your family structure, like everything.
Yeah.
And yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, for me, it was just so tough because I was so used to being in control,
Ooh,
like
yeah.
in control of my energy. Like like I was a burnout coach, like, and a
Yeah.
nurse. So like I was so used to being like, oh, as long as I get my sleep and my sunshine and my movement and my nutrition and all of those things in, like I'll be good. And then this little like thing comes into the world and your body's not your own, your hormones aren't your own, your emotions. And like, I'm also not a very emotional person. So feeling these like uncontrollable like mood swings sometimes, whether it was from the sleep deprivation or the postpartum hormones shifting, or then weaning hormones, like getting my cycle back for the first time. These were all things I had absolutely no control over, no matter how much I tried to hack them. And that was, I think, one of the hardest things, because I couldn't control it, and I couldn't control the baby's sleep. Like I couldn't do any of those things. And that was like a big wake up call for me. And still is one of like the most frustrating things, is like, now I can recognize it, be like, oh, these are hormone shifts happening. Like I know that, but you still can't do much about it.
Especially that control part, and that especially that hacking. I just resonate so much. I feel like I spent 10 years in the healing world, like
Mm-hmm.
creating these like coping mechanisms and all of this resource and capacity. And it's so interesting. The last like 2 years of my life has been so much of, there's so much outside of my control, and learning to literally have peace with it. Not like I'm going to control everything else so hyper that I'm okay with this little piece. It's just like, how can I be okay with this messy humanity and still stay in personal responsibility, still stay in life leadership? But I do think that's so hard for so many women, of finding that balance. And I hate when people use the word balance in that season, because there's so much that it's like, doesn't matter how hard you try, like some things are outside of your control, even when you're doing a really good job.
Yeah. And it was so frustrating, because there's also the time, I feel like, on the internet where it was very much of like, if you aren't succeeding in business or in your health, it's because you're not trying hard enough, or you're making excuses, or you're not investing enough. So I'm like down this rabbit hole, like, oh my God, it's me. Like, oh, why can I not make this work? Why? Yes. Like, it was like, you have to embody like the person that you want to be. I'm like, I'm trying to embody, like, I'm pulling cards hours a day, and trying to meditate and like do all these things. And it's not working. And it took me a really, like, honestly, till probably a couple months ago, where I was like, oh, it just wasn't meant to work anymore. That season was not matched up with what I was trying to do. I was just trying to force it, but I couldn't see that at the time.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of, so much of the personal development world, especially like what you see online, it's all this like David Goggins grit. Like I will just, will be a way that I can make this happen. And it's all on me to like force. And I think there's some health to that, but I think we're forgetting like there's also health, and especially like when you're a high functioner, when you know how to function highly, I don't need someone to tell me how to grit my teeth and bear it and work harder. I know how to do that.
Yeah.
I needed to learn how to know when to quit.
Mhm.
I needed to know when to take the easy way out, how to have some grace with myself, how to have slow energy and rest and like nurturing. That wasn't all me. Recently, I was talking to a friend and I was like, it feels like I'm pushing a boulder up a hill. And I was talking about this thing that I was trying to do in my business. And she was like, what if you just like let the boulder roll down the hill? And I like felt this giant relief in my chest. And I was like, that never occurred to me. Like that, like
Yeah.
I was just like, I've got to get this boulder up the hill. And
Mhm.
I think I'm curious, you said your second postpartum was different.
Yeah.
I'm curious, like, if there was something that changed and how you showed up. Was it just age? Was it just like, different babies, different pregnancies, different body? What do you think? I'm curious what was different, and if you think there's anything to it.
I think it was, a lot of things were different going into this pregnancy. One of them being that we made the relocation from Virginia to Delaware when my first was about 11 months old. Um, my husband and I had this conversation where I was like, if we stay here, we will not have more kids. Like, I cannot do it. And like, we wanted more kids. But I was like, we have no support. I have no, there was no village. There was no friends. There was no family there. And my desire to work just wasn't being supported because of our situation. And so we made that major change, and that like changed the game for us, because now we have my parents and my in-laws, and then my sister moved back home this past year. So like that was a really big thing. the other thing that really changed was my husband quit his corporate job to make that move and now is a business owner, and it's a super successful business. He gets to make his own schedule. He's like doing great, and he's home so much. Like he's home for like everything, which was such a game changer. Um, and then on top of that, because I had let go of my business last year while I was pregnant with Riley, like officially, I had a different view of ambition and of my work and like my purpose. And that kind of mindset shift and identity shift, I like felt like I finally was leaving and like shedding this part of me where I was defining myself by my work. Because first it was I was defining myself when I was a pediatric ICU nurse. Like I've had a lot of ego wrapped up in that. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm the successful 6-figure business owner. And like I had a lot of identity wrapped up in that. And then when that was going down the drain and I wasn't making it work anymore, I went back to the bedside as a nurse. And that was a huge ego like hit for me because I was like, no, like I failed.
Mm.
But then I just kind of let it, like you said, I just kind of let it all go. And when I allowed myself to let it go, I just didn't have this like stress and pressure anymore. I knew I still wanted to help women. I knew I still had this deep desire for impact on my own terms, but I also accepted that it wasn't this season.
Mm.
And so I felt like the minute that I got pregnant with Riley, I have this journal entry where I was like, everything's about to happen for me. And for my first pregnancy, I was like, I'm afraid that I'm going to lose everything.
Mm.
And so I don't know. I just think, yes, the physical environment was so much different. Like I had so much more support, but I just felt different. I was like, I'm going to embrace this time because I looked back at Quinn's first like year of her life and I had no recollection. I was so lost and wrapped up in anxiety and stress and like just trying to make business work and finding myself that I didn't remember how she felt like all curled up on me like as a newborn. And I didn't remember I don't even remember the newborn scrunch from her. And I think I just finally accepted like there's nothing wrong in embracing motherhood. Because
Mm.
for so long I thought that it was soft or like I had a lot of judgment around embracing motherhood. Um And so that in itself really changed. I had a paycheck coming in from my nursing job. I was working in the neonatal ICU at the time. And um, I don't know. I was just I was different. I was just a different person going into it. Um, and it was so healing, which was nice.
Yeah. Well, I'm even thinking to like before we got on this call, before we started recording, you said something of like you're always postpartum.
Mhm.
I think there's so much language around getting your body back or maintaining yourself in motherhood. And I think for some women, that is going to encourage them because I think there's so many women who do lose themselves. And I think
Mhm.
most of us would say, like, I don't want to lose myself.
Mhm.
But I think then we lose the whole idea that, like, what if you're losing parts of yourself that weren't ever really you? It was another different agenda of something someone told you you needed to be or do versus who do you become postpartum? Like, who
Mhm.
do you become when you're a mother? How does it change you? And how can that be a really good, beautiful thing when it's not like you're not losing yourself into you don't exist anymore? It's who am I really?
Yeah. It was like I lost the parts of myself and still I feel like like I'm actively doing that of things that were no longer aligned with me. Like doing I mean, I don't know if you remember, but my old business, I was on Zoom calls like all day long. Like I had multiple cohorts. I was working, a full-time job, and that's not why I wanted to do it. I wanted the freedom and flexibility. And so I just feel like motherhood and postpartum, I lost the parts of myself that were supposed to be lost
Mm.
and just really stripped those away. I just kept saying that the pregnancy with Riley, like it forced me to strip away parts of myself that were no longer meant to be there. And I found myself in motherhood through Riley's pregnancy, where I felt like I really lost parts of myself in Quinn's, but like looking back, I was supposed to.
Mm.
And so I just feel like motherhood has been this like personal growth journey for me that I would have never expected it to be. Like, again, like 5 years ago, I've been like, shut up. That sounds so lame. Like, no, I don't want to, I don't want to think that. But I wouldn't be here today with the goals that I have and the mission that I have and the way that I parent and how I approach, my time with my girls if I hadn't have gone through all of those things.
Yeah. Yeah. I was talking with one of my groups of masterminds and we were talking about business specifically. And I loved the way one of the gals said this. She was like, I can go 90. I've gone 90.
Mhm.
I've proved to myself and everyone else that I can go 90. And she was like, I still could if I wanted to. But when I'm doing that, I'm going so fast and I'm missing this. And she was
Yeah.
like, it's so hard to take my business and put it on the back burner. But as soon as I've put it on the back burner, I'm realizing like, I actually really enjoy like this 45-50 pace. Like this is
Mhm.
actually what I really wanted and needed. It's just that my foot was stuck on that gas pedal. It was like there was a brick on that gas pedal, but it was dissociative and like high functioning. And it's like I didn't feel present. I didn't feel in my body. I didn't feel connected to what I was doing and who I was. And so it's like, I think for so many women, they're terrified to take their foot off the gas because they're afraid that that means nothing, like that they cease to exist or their business cease to exist. And it's like, I get so frustrated with the marketing of like moms can do it all and moms can have it all because all of it is so inspirational and it sounds so positive. But I know so many women who just need permission from someone to say, like, yes, it's okay if it still feels good for you to keep the pace that you did before. It's
Mhm.
also totally okay if all of a sudden you decide, like, whoa, this doesn't feel right anymore. And I want to slow down temporarily, or at least for this season. Like, I look at my life and it's like, I didn't have business, I didn't have that entrepreneurial side at all until my babies were older. And so I've had this season of like, I know I could go 90 right now. And there is a
Mhm.
big part of me that really, really wants to. Like, but I have to look around in my life and be like, it's not time yet. Like, it's
Mhm.
not time to be on the highway. And I have some days where I get to have that feeling.
Yeah.
But like right now, I don't want to be going so fast all of the time. And
Mhm.
it sounds like when you slow down, when you changed that, it also changed your business and your postpartum this time.
Mhm. Yeah, it was like you said, I was giving myself that permission to just take it day by day, hour by hour. Because I was afraid that if I let go of it all, that I would never come back, that I would lose that part of me or like not for me, I think it was a lot about like reaching my potential or like unfulfilled dreams.
Mhm.
And I just didn't want that to happen. But when I gave myself that permission, I found so much more joy in the day to day. I was able to stop feeling pulled in multiple directions. Like I was just feeling for so long of like, oh, I'm with Quinn right now, but like I want to be doing this, or I'm like in my business, but I feel guilty because I want to be with her. And then it's so funny because like my husband is like a stereotypical like masculine like bro marketer, like he's an insurance agent, like he's like, Laura, like if you want to make this he's still saying this, if you want to make it happen you just have to like stay up late and get up early. I'm like, I'm waking up 3 4 5 times a night still. When would you like me to do that? Because I'm not going to sit here and drown myself in exhaustion just so I get there faster. Like
Mm.
this time when I do it, I want to do it because it feels really good and I want to make the impact and be creative and like see myself fulfilled in that way and also be the woman, the mom and the wife that I want to be. Like I don't want anything to suffer because I
Yeah.
think I have to go 100.
Yeah.
Um but it's that permission slip. Like,
Mm.
I think there were so many times that I just like completely got off social because I just needed to hear what I wanted and tune out all the noises of like, oh, you can have it all, or you can make $1 million in 20 hours of business if you just do these things. I'm like, what the hell is happening? Like, I just don't understand here. Um, and so like getting quiet and just checking in with myself and being like, what do I want in this season? Like, what are my values? Because they're different.
Mm.
And I think normalizing that they can change like those values and priorities so often in different seasons of motherhood and just checking in with yourself is so powerful, because the way that I feel now at 11 months postpartum about work is so totally different than I felt at 3 months postpartum when I left my bedside nursing job to work even less in nursing.
Yeah. Well, and it's true that I think every season of motherhood postpartum, right? You're always postpartum. You're always post this now. And I think there's so many different seasons where even lately, there was a year or two ago where like I was hitting the gas a little harder. And then last year I just had this knowing that like I needed a different pace.
Mhm.
I needed and wanted something different. And I'm constantly telling moms like it's not about if you're leading from this place of like the mom guilt of like I'm trying to have it all and do it all and be it all, which I think is mostly shame, not guilt and
Yeah.
attention, but without getting on that soapbox for me, like I keep coming back to like balance is going to change. Your priorities are going to change because you're in a season when you are a mom, you are in a season where there is a giant force outside of you. And every time that force changes, you have to change. You have to adapt. I mean, motherhood is the most intense form of leadership I think that exists, honestly. And I'm always telling people like the law of motion, right? Like an object in motion stays in motion, and an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an uneven force. And I'm like, is
Mhm.
that not motherhood? Like
Yeah.
you're going to have to change your pace. And whenever that happens, it's not necessarily going to feel pleasant, right? Like if you're speeding up or you're slowing down, that doesn't always feel great, but you have to pay attention to when the pace no longer works or the direction no longer works. I'm
Mhm.
curious, I want to jump back into more like the postpartum,
Mhm.
especially like that early postpartum.
Yeah.
What is the work that you're so passionate about doing? Like tell me about what you're doing.
Yeah. So I am launching my new business, Holding Mom Postpartum, as a postpartum nurse navigator. And so it all was kind of born just a couple weeks into my own postpartum because I was in it. I was in, the trenches of fresh postpartum, terrible nipple pain,
Oh,
like 10 out of 10. I was like, something's not right. So, and we were like navigating like toddler illness. And so there was so much stress, there was so much anxiety, there was all these things happening in those first just couple of weeks. And I remember thinking to myself, I can do it this time because I've done it before, but I also have more support.
hmm,
And yet, I need someone in my corner that's just for me, and I don't have that.
mhm,
Because I'm navigating, okay, my own health issues because something's not right breastfeeding. And I'm a certified lactation counselor. I knew something wasn't right. And so I'm like going down all these rabbit holes, like with lactation consultants. And I'm like, a thrush diagnosis. And then she's like, oh, but the latch looks fine. I'm like, but something's still not right. And then finally, it's like a tongue tie that we had to get released. But in that journey, it was 9 weeks
hmm,
of pain, stress, and then also navigating the healthcare system that I was only able to do because I'm a nurse.
yeah.
And so I had that thing that was taking up all of my like time and energy. I also had the healing of postpartum that was happening that just, happens naturally, and the sleep deprivation that happens in those early days, and then transitioning from 1 to 2 kids and my toddler needing me so much, especially because we came home from the hospital and 2 hours later she spikes a fever. So I was like, oh my gosh, like, how am I, like, what is happening? And there were so many moving parts. And that lactation consultant came into my home because I was like, I can't leave. Like, I cannot physically leave this house. I don't have the energy. And I was like, oh, I could do that. I could come into someone's home and support them. Maybe not in like a completely lactation, capacity, but I have my parents, I have my in-laws, I have my sister, but I still feel alone. I still feel lonely. I still feel like there's no one here to talk to or that I have in my back pocket just for me. And that's kind of where this all happened, because postpartum is such a transitional time where your identity is shifting, your family is changing, your health is all over the place. I also had food poisoning 7 days postpartum. And I was like deathly ill, like in
Oh,
bed,
God.
like trying to pump myself like on like horizontal. And there's so much happening. And then you also have to deal with the healthcare system if things aren't going well. And that in itself is a stressor. So I was like, okay, how can I combine my experience as a pediatric and NICU nurse, my experience now, I'm a care coordinator nurse. So like my job is to navigate the healthcare system for parents. Um, put that in my lactation knowledge, my baby care knowledge, like all of these things. How can I combine them plus my work with women to make sure that no woman feels alone in their postpartum period, so that they feel empowered going into it? They feel like they're really lifted up instead of feeling lonely, even when there's people around them.
Yeah.
And that's where this was born. And so, like, now it's almost been a full year of tinkering and refining and working with clients. And it's just, this mission is something that I would have never thought to like help moms really thrive in the postpartum period. But if I can help someone spot a perinatal mental health disorder sooner, or prevent it, or help them feel more empowered, or help them elongate their breastfeeding journey, like, then I will feel so good about that.
Yeah.
Because the way that you enter motherhood and the way that you experience postpartum affects you for the rest of your life.
What you just said there, yes, 1,000 times, because I got so sick of the whole culture around breast is best or fed is best or the births, or it's like the only reason any of that, like that stuff does matter, but it matters because you matter. It
Mhm.
matters because this baby matters. It matters because your experience and your health and well-being matter. Like that's why all of that matters. So people
Yeah.
can talk until they're blue in the face
Mhm.
about what's better for you and your baby, but like, what if you actually had someone to figure out what you needed and wanted? And the reality that, like, what we think is best doesn't always work out in our control, or what we
Yeah.
wanted or how we wanted. And even just when you said, like, looking out for the perinatal mood disorders, we had a provider, like a local group of providers that all got together talking about like perinatal mental and emotional wellness. And that was one of the things we were talking about, is like your postpartum screening at your doctor's appointment. It's like, even if you have red flags on that, like most
Mhm.
of those providers, like they aren't equipped for that. Like they're not equipped for helping you or supporting you. And it's like you have these women who, it's like, even well-connected women, like who have a network of people. I think people are so busy.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, I think our culture is moving so quickly that even when you have really good friends and family, it can be so easy to miss, especially for
Mhm.
like your high functioning women,
Yeah.
or the people who present really well, but like they're struggling
Mm.
so much underneath. And I think of like, if there could be one person who saw someone and like actually wasn't afraid to talk about it, one, or ask the hard questions without them being hard, like just normalizing the experience without terrifying people.
Yeah. Well, and my postpartum anxiety wasn't caught my first time. I lied on that questionnaire. I was like, "I'm fine. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just tired." Like, and if I had actually, I think, recognized in the moments that I was really struggling with PPA, and probably honestly some PPD, that like was just missed, I think my entire postpartum experience could have been so much better and I wouldn't have struggled so much. And it's why I get so fired up about it. I'm like, you really think a sheet of paper at 6 weeks or 8 weeks postpartum is going to do anything?
Woman's drowning. Like,
Like,
just,
there's no way. Like, there's no way. And it's such an important and like honorable thing to walk through walk through postpartum with a woman. And it's why I'm like sitting for my perinatal mental health certification too, because I'm like, I refuse to do this work and then completely ignore this huge part that 1 out of 5 women experience. 1 out of 5 women in their pregnancy or postpartum experience like a perinatal mood or anxiety disorder. And if that's the case and most of it is undiagnosed, like that's so many women suffering. And it's just like you said, this idea of like, well, breast is best and like don't use medication in labor and like all this stuff. It's like that's part of the issue, is this judgment that we're all passing, whether it's from practitioners or just, friends or colleagues or, acquaintances. You just have to be supported and lifted up and celebrated, and whatever happens is totally perfect. Like if you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of your baby, you win. Instead of putting all this pressure on yourself to do it a certain way. So I get so fired up about it because I'm just like, it shouldn't be this way. Like I got so fired up about it this postpartum that I applied to grad school to become a women's health nurse practitioner until I was like, I don't actually want to do that. Because the system has to change. The way that we treat women, and especially postpartum women, like it has to change. Yeah. And if not, then like motherhood is going to continue being a struggle for people and continue being overlooked.
yeah. Well, and what's wild, I was listening to, what podcast was it? Diary of a CEO, but I can't remember who his guest was. And, some of the stuff his guest said, I was like, whatever. But there was some stuff he said about like the birth rates, how much they're declining because people aren't interested in being mothers anymore. And he had some interesting ideas of how we solve that, like robot nurses. It's really bad. You'll have to go listen to it. I was like, what is happening? Where we're like embracing that like AI should raise our children. Anyways, without getting on that note, what I was going to say is that like this is a huge issue. And I think what's hard is I'm such like a big bleeding heart for women. And I look at like when I first started my business and like same, like that was so much of my heart is I was like, so many people are looking at mothers as they parent, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're like, how are you parenting? What are you doing? And I was like, who's looking out for the person
Yeah.
of the mother? Hence like the name, the Motherhood Mentor. That's where that came from. It was like, who's looking out for you as a human being, as a person? And I think there was so many times over the last couple of years where I'm like, man, this is too big.
Mm-hmm.
It's too big. And then I have these moments where it's like that one mom or that one person or that one little tiny change where it's like, if you can impact a mother, what's crazy when you impact a mother, you impact her entire family, her entire lineage. Like this is cycle breaking at its best of like when you are helping a mother, she will automatically go and help her children more. Like when a mother feels better, she'll be able to parent better, right? Because the parenting comes from the parent. But I think
Mm-hmm.
so much of parenting education and experts for so, so long has been about how do you do it the right way? It's all of these books, it's all of these experts telling you what to do. And it's all very informational, which I think is helpful, but I'm like, we have more information than we've ever had. And like, at what point does that stop helping? Because what people really need is relationship and advocacy,
Mm-hmm.
someone to believe them and trust them and hear them out and support them in the decisions they're making. Because it's like, man, that postpartum period, it's been so long since I've been there. But I had the like honor of sitting in a room. I was sitting at dinner with a group of women who like, they're all still in that like 2 and under.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, that was so fucking exhausting. Like when you get to like second or third grade, like none of the moms are talking about like
You
like
forget, you black out.
no one knows where your babies were born or how or what they were fed or like, and I still remember, I think it was like kindergarten or first grade year. I like looked around and I was like, I breastfed this kid for so freaking long and she is sicker than every kid in that class. Like, what
Yep.
the hell? But like honestly, I didn't realize how bad my postpartum anxiety was because I was so controlling. I was so like,
Mhm.
I have to do the right thing at the right time. And
Yep.
that perfectionism postpartum,
Mm.
oh, it's so brutal. It's
Oh God. It's I mean, it's paralyzing,
it
that
is.
perfectionism, because you want to do everything for your baby perfectly. You want to be perfect. Like you the way that you show up in your body and like it's just nonstop. And I truly don't know where that comes from because no one's telling me that I have to look a certain way or I have to do these certain things or, show up for both of my children at this point, going from 1 to 2 in a certain way. It's all me. Like I'm the one having these crazy high expectations to the point where like I'm driving myself insane. And my husband's like, what the hell is wrong with you? And I'm looking at him like, you don't care? He's like, well, of course I care, but like, what are you stressing about? Just last night, we had an experience with, we have hit an angry phase in our toddler's life. And I guess she's a preschooler now. And I'm like stressed. I'm like, I don't know. Are we doing the right thing? Like with this discipline? Like, I don't know because this person says this and this person, he's like, Laura, they're not in our house. I was like, but aren't you concerned that you're going to traumatize her? He's like, no, I'm not. I was like, must be nice.
Must be not like there's so many times where I'm like, if I could just not care too much,
Right?
would it be easier? But also like I could
Mhm.
never not care too much. Like
No.
I like that part about myself that
Yeah.
cares too much. But I've had to learn to let it be this permission for growth, this permission for wanting to do things better and better and better in every arena of my life, like classic perfectionism.
Mhm.
But like I have to also realize like it's not going to be perfect. It's going to
No.
be messy, it's going to be human and like that's also how it's supposed to be. But it's interesting that you were like, "Wait, why did we get this?" And I think it's because it's it's so much unconscious. It's so much unconscious of like our animal bodies are picking up. I do think social media has a big thing to do with it of like our animal bodies are unconsciously taking in data points of how we belong and what we need to do to survive. But like that no longer looks like just make sure you're a decent parent and don't abuse your kids. Like the bar used to be pretty freaking low. And now like it used to be pretty low, like the bar to like be a good parent. And now you think of the like extremes, and this is coming from someone who like I care way too much about parenting. Like I tend
Mhm.
into the overparenting category. I read all the books, I listen to all the podcasts, and sometimes I just remind myself, this is too much. Just go connect with my kid and like be a decent human being.
Yeah.
Like be a healthy human being, be a
Mhm.
leader of my own emotions, my own decisions, my boundaries. Make sure that I am teaching, like, what do I want to teach my kids? I come back
Mhm.
to that values work, which I think how many people are going into motherhood with someone talking to them about, like, what do you value
Yeah.
as a person? What do you value for your kids? What hills are you willing to die on with your kids? That's where I
Mhm.
always come back to is like, is this a hill I need to die on?
Yeah.
Is the kid going to be okay? We don't have villages anymore. We don't see other kids throwing tantrums and how other moms respond to them. And a wide variety of responses too, of like, there's a lot of different versions of healthy responses to toddlers throwing fits, but we only see one. We see like,
Mhm.
by the way, I love Dr. Becky. So when I say like we only hear Dr. Becky's response to the toddler throwing a fit, and I'm like, yeah, that's one version of healthy, but like there's a whole different orientation of like how you might respond. You might not be Dr. Becky, and I love her, right?
Mhm.
I'm
Yeah.
curious.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, how is your postpartum season changing now?
I feel there are days where I feel so very much in that postpartum season still. Like I'm still very actively breastfeeding because my children just refuse to self-wean. um, we also are like still having many night wake ups. She's got like a million teeth coming in. She's going through all these developmental changes.
Work.
I don't judge no matter what people choose to do. I can't let her cry. Like I'm going in there whenever she needs me to. So like those days I'm like, I'm in it. Like I'm in the trenches. I'm still very much in baby phase. But then there's other days where I'm like, there's maybe half of the days last week that I was like, wow, like I feel really good. I feel creative and ambitious. And I've gotten to the point where I just finally admitted that I want to be working more, which I didn't at all. Like the last year and a half, I like cut down to a what we call in the nursing world a soft nursing position where I'm not client facing. I'm very much like working with parents behind the scenes. I'm remote. I work 20 hours a week, and now I'm like, I want another day a week at least of working on my business. And I'm feeling that itch again. Like I'm feeling kind of myself emerge, but it depends on the day. So
Like that fog. It's like,
mhm,
I always tell people, it's like when you're in the fog, like you don't know when it's going to go away.
mhm,
And like sometimes it's like looser fog, like you can see
mhm,
through it better. Sometimes it's denser and like sometimes it'll lift, sometimes it'll come back. But like it's just not panicking when you're in the fog of like it will get
mhm.
sunny again. Like today, we were both talking about like it's sunny and it's beautiful
Yeah.
out. Like I just have to remind myself it's just a season.
Hmm. And that has been really helpful for me this time is like the second time mom energy of like, I know this is all going to end. First time mom me, I was like, oh my God, this is never going to get better, never going to end. Like my first didn't sleep through the night till 17 months. And so that for me was just so hard. This time I'm like, all right, we're 11 months. Like we'll see how long this one lasts, but like I know it's going to end. And then I'm like, when the sleep is such a big thing. Like once that sleep happens, things feel so much better. And even like I got my first postpartum period like a couple last month, maybe. And that in itself, like that hormone cycle actually led me to feel a lot more like myself than I had been. Um, and I think until I end up weaning from breastfeeding, like it's like an acceptance that like, okay, like I'm still going to feel like that fog. I have like it's almost like one of those filters that like you put in front of a camera, like that sepia like filter from like the early days. That's just gonna it's how it is until for me at least, until I get my body back, until I don't have to wake up every 1 to 3 hours or, whatever it is.
Oh, that season, like it's a season that asks a lot of us. It really
Mhm.
does. It asks a lot of so many different parts of ourselves, mentally, emotionally, physically. And can I just say, as someone who was out of those years of like the sleep stuff, we had kids who had been sleeping through the night for years. And I mean, like our kids were big enough that it was like you say goodnight, it's like 5 minutes, they're in bed. They go to sleep on their own, they sleep in. It was magical. And we got a puppy.
Mm.
And not only was this puppy, it was a very unexpected, like, holy shit, I now am responsible for this thing that's just like trying to kill itself or destroy everything again, like very much toddler vibes.
Yeah.
But we started not sleeping. And when I tell you, it took 1 week for me to
Mm.
all of a sudden be like, what the fuck is wrong with me? Like, why is this destroying me? And I think it was sleep. And I think it was like, we were fighting more and bickering more. And I was like mad at my husband. And like, I was like not as patient. And like, I'm grateful that like, I was healthy enough to be able to like kind of go outside myself and be like, it's okay. It's just because you're not sleeping good. But I was like, I wonder if women in that season know, like literally how much this is making things harder on you and that it's not even your fault. Like
Yeah.
I was someone who was like, I was perfectly stable. I had so much
Mm.
mental and emotional capacity. Everything in my life was fine. And then you took sleep away from me. And all of a sudden I was just like, am I okay? Am I?
Oh, it's insane. Like it's actually insane how much it affects you. And like I have an aura ring, so like I'm tracking my sleep.
Oh no.
And so like every day, like it's like something stressed you last. I'm like, no shit. Of course my body is stressed because I'm not sleeping through the night. But like those few nights where it's like, oh, I got 5 hour stretches, like twice last week, I think she slept 5 hours in a row. I woke up and I could take on the world.
For sure.
And it's just so funny how the littlest things could because you've got the sleep deprivation, you've got the hormone shifts, no matter if you breastfeed or not, like your hormones don't regulate for up to 2 years postpartum. So like, you're not going to feel completely yourself for a long, long time. And it's why I started doing this like intentional motherhood challenge recently that I've started posting about, because on those hard days, I've been finding that like, oh, I'm so frustrated by this. Like, I want to have more of those really good days, but I wasn't enjoying it anymore. I wasn't enjoying the, playtime with my kids or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, if that's the case, like what's actually going on? And I just wasn't being intentional. Part of it's winter, but like I was like, how can I make this more enjoyable for me in a season where it's not perfect, where I'm not getting the rest that I need, where I don't fully feel like myself yet, and knowing that that's okay, but like, what are the small things I can do to enjoy every part more? And that's been really helping too. Is just like doing these small things, like training for a race and enjoying my coffee and getting dressed in jeans rather than leggings, like just small things at this point postpartum where I get those glimmers of like, oh, like I'm here. It's going to be okay.
Well, and I think that's so important because I think there's so many women who they go to that like hyper control area of like perfectionist trying to do everything really, really well. And I think there's this fear of this other side where like women get into this victim mentality where like they lose concept of they're so dedicated to motherhood that they stop feeling and showing up to the actions they can take, right? And it, of course, it makes sense why that happens, but coming back to this place where it's like, what can I control? What is within my capacity? And it's like, yes, I can't consistency can't look the same that it used to, but
Mhm.
maybe my consistency can be dependent on my capacity and it doesn't have to be an hour in the gym every single day. It can be a 10-minute walk outside with my toddler. Is that perfect? No, but like it brings you back little by little. And I think so many women are so used to that all or nothing. And I
Yep.
think in motherhood, it just like it really intensifies it so much. And if we can get out of that all or nothing, and especially the comparison too, because I think we look at what someone else is doing, and if we can't do that, we just don't do anything versus what can I do? What's within my capacity? If you are early on postpartum, that capacity might be smaller versus like, and then also you get to this shift where you go, I need more. I need
Mhm.
more time. I need more space. I need more intensity. Like I'm in a season right now where I'm coming out of like a personal winter season where I'm going like, okay, slow isn't feeling good anymore.
Yeah.
Like we've had enough grace, Becca. Like I literally like the other day was like journaling and I was like, we have had enough grace and compassion.
Yep.
We need a little bit more Goggins energy. Like we need a little bit more like get up out of bed early in the morning to get stuff done because I'm craving that. I'm needing that. Like things aren't feeling good anymore.
Mhm.
And there are things that I can control with it. So it's interesting to notice those kind of different waves of seasons.
Yeah. And like if you get like even deeper into it, like if you're into astrology and everything, like Mars has been in retrograde literally until like the other day. And that's our planet of like action. And so now it's direct. So like we might all start to feel this energy of like, oh, I do want to take some action now. And I feel kind of ambitious. And the, astrological new year is coming up in March. So like I will never forget, yeah, like my spiritual like side, my spiritual friends are like, yeah, I mean, the new year technically doesn't start astrologically until March. So, like, if you feel like you're in a winter, December, January, February, that's totally fine. Um, that always makes me feel a little better too. I'm like, oh, okay, like, it's not technically the new year.
I am not an astrology person at all. Like I just like I don't get it. But just the other day I like looked at a friend and I was like, is there a planet in the microwave again? Because something's
Mm.
going on. Something has changed. And I was like, there's something happening on an energetic, like
Mhm.
our animal bodies. There's something happening. And it's so fascinating because like I work with such diverse clients. Like they're all moms. Most of them are entrepreneurs. Like there's a lot of similarities, but like when I start hearing the same themes over
Mhm.
and over and over, I'm going, huh, what
What's happening out here?
what's happening in the realms that like I can't concretely see. And obviously
Mhm.
there's like the culture is a lot of chaos and stuff right now, but I was like, there's something going on right now. So
Yeah.
that's I have to look that up. I'm curious, what did we miss? Is there something that you wanted to like touch on about like postpartum or just like something else you would share that we didn't talk about yet?
I think the biggest thing that I come back to time and time and time again, when I look back at my last two postpartums and how I feel as a mom now and an entrepreneur now, and in the vast ways that I have helped women in the last couple of years, it all comes down to being able to trust yourself and know that you know yourself, your body, your baby, your business best. And if we can remember that and tune out the noise, like I feel like that is the most empowering, powerful thing that we could ever do as women, as mothers, is trust our intuition and trust ourselves to make those decisions. No matter if you are 3 months postpartum, whether you have older kids that are 10 and 12, like no matter what stage of business you're in, when you can come back to yourself, I think that's what the world wants us to forget and to like ignore. And there's nothing more powerful. And I just feel super honored to help women remember that. Um, like in this age of over information, yes, I will, you know, I will empower you with education from, my nursing background and my lactation background. But like at the end of the day, you've got to do you and you've got to trust yourself. And that's my biggest thing, no matter what.
Can I ask you something about that?
Hmm.
What if a woman says she doesn't know how to trust herself?
Mm. She just has to look for like ways that she can and for like what is that word, my postpartum brain, but the examples of it, because there are times that you've been able to trust yourself, there are times that you have shown up for yourself when you thought that you couldn't, or you went through something really really tough and you thought you weren't going to get through it and you did, or you advocated for a friend, or you advocated, you left a party early in high school because it felt weird. Like, that's you trusting yourself. Like, it can show up in such tiny or large ways, and I think sometimes if you feel like, "Oh, no, I've made mistakes," or I've not been able to trust myself in the past," there's so many more examples of times that you could have.
Yeah, I really like that. And I hear too something that I work with women a lot of sometimes we're not trusting ourselves because we've given our like emotional, energetic authority outside of ourselves, right? And I think this especially happens in motherhood because there's so many experts, there's so many people outside of us who know better.
Mhm.
And we give, I was doing air quotes there on the know better
Mhm.
because they do know information, but there's not relationship, there's not connection. And it's like, I would never trust a rando on the street to make decisions for me. I might trust someone who knows, loves, and likes me, who has only positive intent for me. But I think some women, when we're like, oh, just trust yourselves or trust your intuition, it's like, you can start by taking some authority back and creating consistency. And like you said, like that evidence of when are times where you didn't know what you were doing and yet you figured it out. You
Mhm.
asked the right questions or you got the right support or you figured out like what would a trustworthy person do? Who's someone I trust in my life? And how do they show up? How
Mhm.
do they talk? How do they relate? And then bringing that back to how you relate to yourself because I do think trust and intuition for so many women is so hard, especially in motherhood because it's that hasn't been a very important part for a very long time.
Well, because people don't make money if you trust yourselves. Like,
I can't,
that.
I know how to make you, I can't have you pay me 3 grand for me to teach you how to make 7 grand if you know what to do already.
Exactly. It's like, and with the clients that I've had so far at Holding Mom Postpartum, like they'll text me questions, right? And they'll say, like, this thing is happening with my milk supply, or, I decided to sleep train and now my milk supply is going down. Like, what should I do? I'm like, well, first, or like they're trying to troubleshoot, something's happening. And they're like, I don't know if she's getting enough. I'm like, okay, here's what we look for. Here is the evidence, the education. Here, I know what I think, but I always say, I'm like, what do you think it is? Like, check in with your gut right now. Is this your anxiety talking? is this actually real? Or like, is it something different? Like, what do you actually think? You're just looking for me to give the answers, but you already know the answer. And every single time they're like, this is what I think it is. I'm like, oh yeah, I come 100% agree. But like, yeah, I'm glad that you came to that conclusion.
They want that affirmation and permission that
Yeah,
they can trust themselves.
exactly. And so I think the more that we get to do that as women, the more that we can help other women do that, like our friends and our clients, like we end up really empowering like an entire generation of women and our daughters to do the same. So then we are no longer giving our power away and looking outside of ourselves for the answers or for what's like what you said earlier, like what's right. That's a huge thing for me. I'm like, oh, I always want to do what's right. And it's like, no, like that will exhaust you to the point of no return.
And it's interesting, we're talking about motherhood right now, but my brain just went, and this goes for business too. And I think that is one reason why motherhood and business go beautifully together, is because you start realizing that like there is no perfect formula for it, especially when we're talking like entrepreneurship business of like you like yeah, you need some strategies, yeah, you need some information, but like at some point like you're going to have to take messy action. You're going to have to trust yourself. You're going to have to make some mistakes and figure it out along the way and pivot when necessary. I have loved this conversation so much, Laura. It has just like lit me up to be able to like see you and talk to you and just see your evolution since I first met you too. It's just
Oh, it's been so nice. I mean, I remember when you like when we first met and you were just starting your business, and it's just like so cool to see how much you've
I
evolved.
was like
And
a postpartum mom, but with my
yeah, it was just like so sweet. And you've just come so far. And I've just loved watching you like every step of the way. And I'm so grateful that we're still in contact. And I've loved being here.
we need like a reunion or something.
No.
So fun. I love all you ladies. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for joining me on today's episode of the Motherhood Mentor podcast. Make sure you have subscribed below so that you see all of the upcoming podcasts that are coming soon. I hope you take today's episode and you take one aha moment, one small tangible piece of work that you can bring into your life to get your hands a little dirty, to get your skin in the game. Don't forget to take up audacious space in your life. If this podcast moved you, if it inspired you, if it encouraged you, please do me a favor and leave a review. Send an episode to a friend. This helps the show gain more traction. It helps us to support more moms, more women. And that's what we're doing here. So I hope you have an awesome day. Take really good care of yourself, and I'll see you next time.